Now, the latest on the India-China talks on the standoff in Ladakh and a breakdown in talks. The 13th round of talks took place yesterday, and a statement of the Chinese military spokesperson on the talks yesterday indicated that talks had failed. Talks were specifically on Chinese disengagement from hot springs and Depsang plains areas in eastern Ladakh. Now, China accused India of insisting on unreasonable and unrealistic demands, while the army says that the Chinese army didn't agree to make any changes. Well, let's now go across to Vishnu Shom for more details on this. And Vishnu, a breakdown in talks, and are there going to be more talks in the future? What are you hearing?
I think that's the key point, because in the statement released by the Indian Army, there is no mention of future talks. However, both sides will remain in touch. But what is clear is that this round of talks, the 13th, between senior commanders, has broken down completely. It took place in Chushul, Moldo, on the Chinese side in eastern Ladakh, and was meant to discuss Chinese disengagement from the hot springs area and from the Depsang plains area further to the north. But according to the Indian statement, and let me quote, during the meeting, the Indian side made constructive suggestions for resolving the remaining areas, but the Chinese side was not agreeable and also could not provide any forward-looking proposals. The meeting thus did not result in resolution of the remaining areas. So this mark, indicates that this round of talks have failed, and the ramifications of this, are huge, because there's always been an expectation that the Chinese and the Indian side will work towards fixing the problem, and by which I mean the Chinese go back to areas which they occupied previously and move back from the areas which they started occupying, once they came and intruded into our territories. So that's clearly not taken place. The Chinese statement is more terse. It refers to India being unreasonable and things like that. But at the moment, this basically implies that in the hot springs area and in the Depsang plains area, Indian soldiers cannot patrol to areas where they've traditionally patrolled till. So to that end, there is no resolution in this area, unlike other areas where there has been a resolution. For example, in the Gogra area, in the Pangong Lakes area, in the south bank of the Pangong Lake. So those are areas where there has been progress. Galwan also, where there is a zone between the two sides which neither can enter for the moment as a peacemaking, as a step which was taken more than a year back, but no progress as far as Depsang is concerned and hot springs is concerned. So it is I would suggest it's a fairly serious setback as far as the peace initiative between the militaries of the two sides are concerned.
Right, because Vishnu, on one hand, it would have been one thing if we'd heard that there had been no headway in the talks, but instead the kind of statements emerging, a senior colonel, spokesperson of the Western Theatre Command, saying that India misjudging situation. Instead of misjudging situation, the Indian side should cherish the hard-won situation in China-India border area. So these kind of statements that are emerging are also very curious.
No, you've hit the nail on the head, Gargi. That statement by that senior Chinese military leader, almost talking down upon New Delhi over here, and suggesting that, look, just be happy that you've achieved a hard-won sort of progress in a couple of areas, but don't be unreasonable in what you suggest is what the Chinese. So I think we need to summarize this, Gargi, by a hardening of positions on both sides. China says that what India says is unreasonable, untenable, and, nothing for further can be achieved right now, while New Delhi says that, look, it's China who've said that they don't want to do anything more. We don't know about, New Delhi doesn't say that there'll be more talks, and New Delhi says that our position is based entirely on what the foreign ministers of both sides have agreed, but the Chinese military appears to show no willingness to actually take that forward. So it's not a stalemate. I would suggest that, it is a breakdown. Only because there is no announcement.
India's statement clearly says a unilateral attempt by China to alter the status quo, and that is what's very concerning.
Well, that's been the position always. India has always said that China has tried to unilaterally alter the status quo along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. That's what has triggered this entire crisis. But the reiteration of the statement when both India and China try and have peace talks is, a suggestion that of a hardening of position by New Delhi, in addition, obviously, to what the Chinese have done. So this is now going to carry on. Winter is upon us, and certainly in those areas, the temperatures have already started plummeting. So it seems clear that soldiers on both sides, and you're looking at more than 50, 60,000 soldiers on both sides in what must be the most inhospitable part of the world, certainly one of the most inhospitable parts of the world, will remain fully deployed for a second consecutive winter. And this is a ominous prospect which neither military would have wanted.
All right, Vishnu Som there reporting on the latest on the China-India talks and a breakdown in talks. This was the 13th round of talks over the Ladakh standoff, but clearly a complete breakdown with China saying that India was being unreasonable. India saying that China is trying to change the status quo, and India is only demanding what was the necessary steps to restore peace in the area.